Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. You are in for another treat today. And I know I say it every time, but I mean it every time because I am having the privilege of meeting so many amazing people. And Kwesi is no exception to that rule. So, before we get into all of that, if you're not already following this podcast, please do. It really helps. It means that you don't miss an episode and you won't miss great guys like this who are really cool things. He is the father of 5. He is also a people enthusiast who is in the process of becoming a published author. He's close. He's also a twin dad, and I'm a twin mom, so that makes great things happen. He's a cycling enthusiast, a native North Carolinian who wants people to be the best versions of themselves. Kwesi, welcome to Productive Joy.
I am so glad to be here, Dr. Chris. Thank you for having me on today to be able to have this. I think was going to be an amazing conversation to be able to talk through some things.
Oh, I think the same thing for sure. And people are funny and they only listen for a quick amount of time. As a matter of fact,
Yeah,
we just talked about you got about 40 seconds before people decide if they're going to come
that's
back
it.
or not. So, what would you do with your 40 seconds to convince people that they want to stick around?
Ooh, so I listen. I know there's no real such thing as a silver bullet or a magic pill, but ooh, listen, if I could give you one today that would help you with some areas around bigger trust, higher employee engagement, maybe even thinking through better relationships with your teams, a positive environment, and an inclusive culture, I think we got one that we can talk through today. What that looks like to bring your most authentic self to the table as a leader and as an individual. I think that would be, for me, the pitch to say, hey, if you want to know how to do those things and get those benefits of higher trust, right? Bigger employee engagement, more inclusive environment, more productivity. So you're not leaving the office on a Friday feeling like, oh, this is terrible. And on Monday morning, you feel like, I don't want to go back. How do we do that in such a way today? We're going to give you that, I think, in the next 30, 40 minutes that we have together.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And it is no wonder that our mutual friend, Travis Beverly, thought we would be friends because it sounds like you and I are singing out of the same songbook.
Oh, yes.
um,
Yes,
that
I would
is
agree.
That is what I call productive joy. We're going to get to what you call productive joy in a minute. But Kwesi, I'm going to guess that you didn't go to college and say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to transform workplaces and make things really fantastic for everyone. So why don't you tell us your journey that got you here?
Ooh, so that's a great question. And I look back on this now, and it's funny to look back at it now. But crazy enough, in being a North Carolinian, I grew up and I was making straight A's and all U's in conduct.
Mm.
And those U's in conduct were usually because I talked too much.
Oh, shocker.
Uh, so what's crazy now is I actually get paid to do what I got in trouble for
Mm.
many, many years ago. But so my journey started out. So like most people, I wanted to help. So I got into healthcare. So I started in the healthcare arena. I started as a respiratory therapist, did that for a few years. Eventually, after I pulled the plug on my last patient in the hospital and I walked out of that room and I asked my lunch buddy, hey man, what's for lunch today? I realized I kind of lost my compassion for people.
Mm.
I was like, you know what? Oh, so those who no longer do, teach. So I started in the consulting realm. So I started doing some consulting work. I did some patient throughput consulting, some revenue cycle management consulting in various hospital settings. And that kind of led me back into this world of patient experience because we were getting people in and out the door faster, but patients were saying, well, I feel like I'm a cow being herded through the process. So we were able to kind of think through what does that look like to make sure that we're also creating a good experience while we're doing improving processes. And so that kind of launched me into that world. That then kind of got me into the place where I started doing more trainings and more workshops. And I was like, oh yes, I have a love for this. That's right. This is what I enjoy doing. And so, man, did that a few different times. And here's the hard part. Every time I was in any position, no matter what position I was in, I always found myself gravitating towards doing training and development.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, is there a way for me to do this full time? Yes, it is. And so that's how I kind of stepped into this role.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun. And I get it because that's me all the way. I love nothing more than to help people and to get them to learn something from me. I think that's fun. And you mentioned you got it a patient experience and you and I were
Mm,
talking about becoming a champion of experience.
yes. I love that title, by the way. I'm
Yes,
stealing it. I'm stealing
Yes.
it.
Well, I'm giving it to you from my husband.
Okay.
Husband has named himself the champion of experience at our church. And I think that what you've done is you've taken what you know works and you've
Yeah.
turned it into something that other people can replicate. And that's a talent, most definitely. And I love that you have chosen to go that route. And you've kind of been dabbling in that route with a dare to be mantra, right?
Yeah.
Like so why don't you
Absolutely.
tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, man. Here's the very interesting part about this. I was actually just kind of mulling this over with my wife one night. And I was like, man, I need something because I love the idea of being genuine and being authentic. And then I was like, when you do trainings and workshops, it's always that thing at the end. What's the call to action?
Hmm.
What is that thing to make sure people want to move and do something differently? And so I was like, I love the whole thought process around being genuine and authentic, but I need a call to action. And so the call to action became that dare to be. So I don't know if you guys remember. This is I'm kind of aging myself a little bit right now, but I grew up watching The Christmas Story
Oh,
with
heck
Ralphie,
yeah.
right? And
Absolutely.
so I don't know if you remember, there was this scene in The Christmas Story where he had to stick his tongue on the pole.
Mhm.
And the whole premise around it was, I triple dog dare you, right? To do it. And that was, you can't go back from that. You
No.
can't go back from the triple dog. So somebody says that to you, you got to go forward with it. And so that's kind of where the whole notion of dare to be came from of, man, how do we encourage people to do something different? How do we maybe inspire as much as possible, but even challenge in so many ways to say, hey, I dare you to do something different. I dare you to be different. Dare you to be silent. I dare you to be courageous, right? Whatever that may look like.
Oh, I love it. And you said dare you to encourage, inspire, challenge.
Yeah.
Who challenged you? Who taught you that that was something worth doing?
Oh, so that's, I mean, there's a long list probably of individuals that I can probably name, but I'll start with just immediate family. My mom always kind of encouraged and dared for us to do something different. She saw something different in us as her kids to say, I think you guys have more, so let's go be more. And not necessarily have to do more, right? But how do you be more, right? That's kind of the
Mm.
whole premise around dare to be. It's not about doing, it's about being. And I think from there, even just kind of thinking about some of my mentors in high school, two individuals in particular, Dr. Edgar Zimmerman and Dr. Tony Wallington were individuals who taught me in high school as a young man to say, hey, listen, you can be something different.
Mm.
And I think they challenged me to the point where they called me out and called me up, even as I stepped into different roles. Because, okay, I'll give you a quick story. I remember being a ninth grader in high school, and I had a teacher who said, Kwesi, you are a BSer.
Oh, nice.
I said, what are you talking about? I said, but that's who runs the world. BS people are amazing. She said, no.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I said, that's what I want to be. She said, but you have something so much greater in you that where if you chose to soar, you could. And I think
Mm.
from that time, even just kind of having those kind of individuals challenge me to be something more than the norm, to be something more than what I saw in my environment, be something more than what I felt comfortable with, right? In so many aspects. And so just kind of that challenge always has been there. And I think I've always surrounded myself, even in every aspect of my life now going forward. I have people who are constantly challenging me to be more.
Yeah. Well, and now you're challenging people to do exactly
Yes.
that, right? Through your workshops, through your trainings, through just being you, you're like, okay, we're not going to be mediocre anymore. So, several years ago, when I was trying to figure out how to brand myself, I listened to a podcast. Actually, Roy Vaden was who did it along with Ed Milet. And he talked about
Ooh,
what's in
love
one
that.
word, what problem do you solve? And I
Yes.
remember going, oh, not real sure. It took me a while to get it down to one word. But I picked the word mediocrity. The problem
Ooh,
that I solve is mediocrity because I want people to leave me extraordinary, meaning I want to bring out the best in people. Like I said, Travis knew when he put the two of us together that we very much are on that same page. I want people to leave better than they came. Not that they were not good when they came, they were wonderful. And I just want to kick it up a notch. I want to take them and help them find the best parts of themselves. So, how do you do that? How do you bring out the best in people?
it's a great question. So, as you're talking, I'm just kind of thinking through, man, what one word? Because I love Ed Milet, right? What one word do I actually solve? And I had to think about that even as
Yeah.
I'm processing now. Imposter.
Oh, say more.
Right. And so I think one of the things that for me, as I'm on this journey myself, because I will tell you, Christine, listen, if I could tell you anything, I was really good at being a chameleon.
Okay.
And
I
and
think several
and
of us
and
have been.
sometimes it's not necessarily a bad thing because you need to be a chameleon. You need to be able to kind of move in and out of different spaces. But when you get to the point where you're so much of a chameleon that you don't really know who you are,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now because you put on so many different masks and so many different hats, and you just kind of cover up all these different things on a consistent basis. And so eventually you get to the point where you do feel like I'm an imposter. I have this imposter syndrome that's kind of weighing me down. And so what I want to help people do is to be able to take those masks off.
Yeah.
Let's take the mask off. Let's get down to the real authentic you. Because when you show up as you, that's where we got to start. Because people need you. They need what you offer. They need what you bring to the table. And so helping individuals understand what that looks like and how to actually unpack that is kind of what I think I help to be able to solve, to figure out how do we get rid of the whole thought process and notion of the imposter syndrome. And I
Yeah.
think the best way to do that is to be authentic and actually own the things that you're not good at, right? Be able to embrace your strengths as much as possible, lead with those, but then own the things that you're not so good at. And then you kind of just you put it out there. Hey, listen, I'm not good at this.
Yeah.
So if you find you won't find out about me because I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I'm not,
Right. I don't have to be worried about you discovering that I'm not good at it. Let me just tell you, this
let
is
me
not
just
my
tell you,
thing.
this is not my thing. Yes.
You know
But
what?
I think it takes a lot of internal kind of just work and reflection to be able to get to that and be able to unearth that because we have been taught for so long, even from kindergarten on up,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
you've got to kind of fit in,
Yep.
right? And even Brene Brown talks about that, the difference between fitting in and belonging,
Yes. Oh,
right?
great. Yes, great book. All of her books are fantastic, but I have also been a big Brene Brown fan for a lot of years. And that is such a, she has a picture in her book, what picks the book, Atlas of the Heart. Um
Yes. Great
in
book.
there about fitting in versus belonging and what does that mean and how do we continuously morph. I think we do that even up in into adulthood, right? We
Yeah.
definitely do it in our childhood. We definitely do it in our teenage college years. You start to outgrow it a little bit. Some people start to outgrow it a little bit. I'm 48, and at this particular stage of life, I am realizing I don't want to be anybody else because it's exhausting.
Going
It
to Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. It is exhausting.
yeah.
Okay, I'm
So
sorry.
no, and
I get
I
excited when
use
I
the
hear
same
that.
analogy you do about the mask, but the way that I talk about wearing a mask is, in 2020 we all learned to wear masks, right?
Yes.
And you can't breathe. You can't take a deep breath. And that's what's exhausting is you're not getting enough oxygen. You're not you're constantly hiding from something. And I don't want people to do that. And it sounds like you don't either. So I'm
Right.
dying to know what would be your definition of productive joy then?
Ooh, okay. So this is a little complicated because I've
Oh,
actually thought
I
about
can't
this a
wait.
little bit. So when I think about the notion of productive joy, I don't want to gross anybody out as we talk about it.
That's okay.
My background is respiratory therapy, so I'm going to use
Oh,
an analogy from there. One of the best things to be able to help people to get better and heal is to have a productive cough.
yes.
So there's a cough that kind of comes from the upper respiratory area that kind of it sounds like that. But to get a deep cough that allows for things to move and even the mucus inside your body to kind of move where it needs to so you can actually breathe well and actually take a deep breath, it's got to be productive.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing. So for me, I'm thinking there's joy, but then there's also productive joy.
Yeah.
And productive joy for me says it's something that comes from deep within
Yeah.
of us, right? It's this thing that comes from deep within and it moves us in such a way that it compels us to be better. It compels us to be the best version of ourselves. And it actually, in so many words, allows for some healing to take place for not only ourselves, but others. And we get to take deep, meaningful breaths
Yeah.
when we have that productive joy.
Oh. I love that. So it's my favorite part because every single time I get a different answer,
Yeah.
and it almost always is rooted in historical knowledge, in who you are as a person, and that's 100% true there. But this is the first time that I've gotten a true visual, right? We all know
Cool.
that productive cost, that nasty, like, and yet it is the only one that makes you better. And so I
Those-
love that. What a great definition, Quasi. That's just fun. Okay, well, yeah, I knew that this was gonna be good the minute that you came on screen and you were like, "Should I change into a blue shirt? It's kinda my brand."
It's kind of a brand. Let's do
I'm
it. I
glad I
love
wore
it.
blue today. I'm very glad I wore blue today. So, if someone were to call on you to
Yeah.
support them and help them, what does that look like? Like, do you work with individuals? Do you work with companies? How do you help people find some of this productive joy?
Yeah, so a little bit of both, right? I think I found a lot of joy in, and this is again, this is one of those things where I had to kind of bring my authentic self to the table. I tried to do a lot of individual coaching, and I found myself essentially when I would do an individual coaching, I would kind of be looking at the clock, like, oh,
Oh,
oh, okay, well, okay. Let me see if I can come up with another coaching question to ask to kind of spur the conversation along. So what I've leaned into is doing some workshops and trainings, but then also from there, I do enjoy the reinforcement coaching piece of it with a group cohort, right? So kind of working with an organization to say, hey, listen, give me a group of leaders. Let me train them on some stuff, and then let's have a cohort afterwards. We can do some group coaching to where we're learning from each other. We're kind of still tossing around ideas and be able to collaborate to make sure that we're in creating a safe space, right? Because I think again, when you bring your authentic self to the table, you're able to create a psychologically safe space for others to bring themselves. Because when you're authentic, you give permission for other people to be authentic too,
yeah,
which is
definitely.
where that real collaboration takes place. So being able to have that opportunity to do some training, do a workshop, and then also do like a group coaching session with that cohort for the next 3 or 4 months to see how they're actually applying the things that we talked about. Because I struggle with a one and done.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Kind of come in and do a one time training and you kind of bounce out. And here's the thing, 6 months later, but we had this really fun, energetic guy who came in. I think his name was like Queasy or Quasi or something like that. It was good, but you're not implementing anything that we've talked about,
Right.
right? And that's where, again, I think it falls off. And so to be able to have that reinforcement coaching, having those opportunities to be able to have those coaching opportunity, coaching, those group coaching sessions with people where we're still learning, hey, what's working for you? Okay, what kind, oh, so I tried this last week and I don't know if that works, it's going to work well, but you can try it. And kind of having those opportunities to be able to learn from each other, I think is, because I always tell my groups, listen, guys, the wisdom of the room should come from the wisdom in the room.
Oh, yes.
And you're in the room. And so you shouldn't be here just listening to me the entire time. Let's learn from each other. I want to learn from you. We can learn from each other and we can all get better together.
I love that. That is such a great phrase. I have always used the phrase, "The brilliance is in the room," and honor the brilliance in the room,
Come on. I love it.
because I think sometimes people who are hired to come teach somebody something, right, train somebody in something, think that they should do all the talking, but the person
Yes.
doing the talking is the person doing the learning, and if I do all the talking, I also leave with all the information, and I walked in with a lot of the information. That's not really the goal here, right? So I wonder, and this is just a one-off question, where do you rank on the extrovert scale, Kwesi?
Oh, okay. All right. So, in full transparency, I think up until maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, I was high extrovert. Now I'm kind of in the middle. I've kind of come down because I do need my time to kind of just be away. I think
Mm.
I've learned that I actually recharge better sometimes being away from people, which is I think now that like my daughter has a t-shirt that says I'm peopled out. And so
I'm overly
I'm
people,
done peopling.
too much peopling.
Yeah. I'm done peopling for today. So I can understand that. But I think for me, I'm very much an extrovert. I do draw energy off of people. I think sometimes even to a fault, because there's times where I'm in a presentation, I'm like, man, I'm not getting anything from the group. And it impacts how but I'm like, nope, I still need to be my authentic self. Whether they're bringing the energy or not, that's who I am. So I'm
Yeah.
going to bring that, right? So I'm just kind of repeating those things, having those things on repeat in my own brain, even as I'm presenting too.
Oh
So
yeah, same. No, same. And I asked because the one-on-one wasn't filling your cup, right? You wanted there to be the synergy in the room, and so I wondered
yes,
if that was part of your own internal
for
meter that says, "Hey,
sure.
I need people to play off each other." And I think Two, it's difficult to have all the answers for someone. And in a one-on-one situation, you're supposed to, even though we don't, right? The person with the
Right.
problem actually is the person with the solution too. We just have to ask great questions.
Without a doubt.
And
Yeah.
I can completely see there being a whole lot more synergy and pleasant things when you manage to pull back and go, okay, actually, we're going to do it this way.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've learned from me even it's very helpful, right? Because they have a story, they have a tidbit they can add, and then it also gives me a little bit to kind of build upon too,
Of course.
right? And I can kind of throw something in, and it kind of allows for even more discussion to take place. And I think people learn inside of discussion.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. So, how might somebody find you if they were looking for, like, there are a lot of leaders who are listening to this podcast right now going, oh my gosh, his energy's infectious and we want him in our space. How
Yeah.
might somebody find you?
Well, right now I'm on LinkedIn. Find me out on LinkedIn. I have a couple different recordings of myself. So you want to get a little bit of teaser of how I would present to you all, or definitely I can give my contact information as well until we get the website up and running for Dare to Be. But if they would love to be able to be in contact with other people.
Well,
So
and okay, so let's tell them, give them a little teaser about Dare to Be, because you told me this is going to be a book. But in the meantime, tell us about Dare to Be.
So it's definitely a book. We are in the process of writing different chapters now. I'm actually putting a couple fillers out on LinkedIn with some of the chapters, but the book in itself, and where we've kind of landed is it'll be 52 chapters.
Okay, so one
Because
a
I'm
week.
thinking, so one a week, right? So one thing that you can pick up a week and kind of start to work on. And for those who want to do something one a week, they can. But for some who might be overwhelming, you can actually take your time. You don't necessarily have to do it. And the beauty of it, here's where I struggle sometimes with books in full transparency. When you feel like, man, I read the first two chapters, and I think I read the whole book in the first two chapters.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That part. Yep. It's
Right.
100%.
And I want people to be able to pick up this book and say, "Hey, I need this." So let me flip to chapter 33, and
Yeah.
I have to read chapters 1 through 32 to figure out what 33 is talking about, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of individualistic in that approach to where you can kind of grab the book and be able to learn what that is you want to take away from it. We're going to give some very good, helpful tips and tools. I have these amazing. So I'm again dating myself a little bit. I used to play 52 card pickup.
Oh, heck yeah.
So I had these cards that they're going to be designed for you to be able to have an opportunity for these weekly challenges on the back of the card to kind of describe what that Dare to Be action is, and then give you some weekly challenges to be able to grow yourself and even challenge yourself with that particular piece, right? So I'll give you a quick insight. One of my faves so far has been, and it's gotten a lot of traction on LinkedIn, was Dare to Be Silent.
Mm.
And one of the reasons why that's important for me is because people sometimes, as you talked about, feel like they have to feel the dead space.
Yeah.
They have to always be saying something or to give unsolicited advice. And it's like, no. So here's your challenge this week. Instead of actually giving unsolicited advice, just ask somebody, hey, do you want me to give advice or do you want me to just listen?
Mm. Mm. That's
Yeah.
powerful. That's powerful. So my husband and I are marriage mentors, and we've worked with about 95 couples over the last 7 years who are getting married, right? So
Oh, wow.
our church built a chapel for the sole purpose of outreach. But if you get married in that chapel, you have to go through these 4 sessions so that
Okay.
you can have the right tools in your tool belt for marriage. And one of the tools we talk about is communication and conflict resolution, right? The number one thing that we all need. But we talk about having our couples have phrases that work well. And we have borrowed several from Brene Brown. You mentioned her earlier, clear as kind, the story I'm telling myself. But the other one that we encourage is this golf or tennis.
Ooh,
So golf is an individual sport, right?
it
So
is.
if I come home from work and I've had a rough day and I just need Jason to listen to me, then I can say to him, honey, this is golf. And he knows that that means I'm just here to listen, to, love you and pat you on the head and say you're going to be okay, not to give that unsolicited advice. But if it's tennis, I want to go back and forth with you. I want this to be a dialogue and I need your input and I don't know what I'm doing. That very simple distinction has caused so many fewer fights because he wants to help, right? But I don't necessarily need the help in that moment. I need to be able to just get it off my chest. So I think that goes back to exactly what you're saying. Dare to be silent. Just shush for a minute. let me
Just for a
let
minute.
me get this out.
And let them get it right. I think even for leaders, learning how to be able to do that is going to be essential to your team because again, you're allowing that space for your teams to be able to just kind of just say some things, and
Yeah.
you're creating a space where they feel safe to be able to say those things.
Yeah.
And here's the beauty in that. You actually might learn something.
Yeah.
In
100%.
the
I almost guarantee you will.
You will learn something either about them, about yourself, about the situation, and be able to actually to be able to guide and direct it a little bit better based off of just being silent.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Hmm. Well, that sounds like very sound advice. And Kwesi, I'm pretty sure that you and I were cut from the same cloth and
It
are doing
absolutely feels
some
like it.
very parallel things. And I think the world needs us, right? They need somebody who is looking for that productive joy,
Yeah.
looking for the, well, and I recently interviewed somebody and I said something about glass half full. And he said, it's really not about full or empty. It's about how do we get it to be completely full? What do we do to fill the cup, right? And I think that that's kind of how we're approaching things. We want to leave people better than we found them. So I could talk to you for days, and I am so excited to now have you in my network, but people will not listen for days. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
I think I'm ready. I think. Let's do it.
Oh,
Let's
I'm
do
so
it.
excited. I cannot wait to hear these answers. Okay, my friend, what is your definition of fun?
Ooh. Okay. So don't talk bad about me.
Uh-uh.
A 30 to 40-mile bike ride in beautiful Florida weather that has allowed me the time to process and get some serious downloads on some things I've been pondering.
Ooh,
So that for me is fun because then I come back a better version of myself, right? That's me taking some time to me and doing some self-care.
yeah.
Um, so doing that kind of self-care, or I love to cook.
What's your
I
favorite
am
thing
a
to cook?
I'm a Southern boy at heart, so I love a good salmon.
Okay.
Uh, Good salmon and sauteed spinach is kind of my jam. Uh,
Nice.
I love spending time in the kitchen is my idea of fun too. Because again, I'm using it by myself, and I get to just process and just be and just get to think and just kind of come up with ideas and get creative. Right, that creative process is actually getting those creative juices flowing. It's
Oh, I
my
love
jam.
it. I love it. All right, great answer. And I don't think you're that crazy. My husband was a cyclist. I was for a hot minute. I decided it was just stressful because I don't like the traffic and the like. We would ride with a group and
Oh
all the things. That was a lot for me, but I
okay.
completely support it fully. Okay, how do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
Ooh, that's a great question, right? And I think when I know I'm showing up as my authentic self is when I am less concerned about the individual in the back who has their arms folded and not necessarily engaged, but I'm more actually thinking about what is it that I am saying? What are people hearing from me? What's landing well? And when I'm not concerned about the outside perceptions, right? Then I know I'm actually showing up as myself and I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. I think oftentimes we get so concerned about what people because I've had this happen. You've probably seen this happen before too, where I've had people who were silent and didn't say a thing in the entire session. And then they come up to me at the end like, this was the best training I've ever been to. And I'm like, "Ugh."
Yes.
That's when I know I'm showing up as my authentic self because I haven't tried to shift and shape and try to become a chameleon to kind of pull that individual in or try to appease just that one individual, but I still continue to be me
Hmm.
and say wherever it lands, it lands.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I found they come up at the end and say, "Man, this was so good," but you say somebody should have told your face that
I know.
because your face didn't agree with what you just said.
Right.
Okay,
You were putting off a fully different vibe there, buddy.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. I can fully agree with that one too. All right. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
Ooh, okay. I have friends
Hmm.
that I can call. One in particular I can think of right now, my boy Trey Smith, who, if I need a quick kick in the butt and a swift reminder of who you are or who I am, sorry. And I actually do have, and this is kind of wild, but it speaks to the power of handwritten notes. So for all my leaders who are listening out there, if you write your team members handwritten notes, it does matter. I actually have a few that I've held on to. There's a couple of handwritten notes. And so what's crazy, here's the crazy part. Again, no judgment from the group here, no judgment from the gallery. I actually have a kudos folder in my Outlook.
Oh, I love that.
So when somebody sends me something that, hey, Kwesi, great job doing this, it immediately goes into my kudos folder. And on my worst days, I'll go back and look at that kudos folder and say, okay, nope, this is who you are. Nope, this is who you got to be. This is who you got to show up as. Let's go. Come on.
That is such a powerful practice because we do hear those things, but it's often not in the moment that we need them. And if we can't find them again, then we
Yes.
forget that anybody ever said something positive. I know I don't live in my feelings very well. I'm an Enneagram 7. And as an Enneagram 7, we're all about the fun. We're enthusiastic optimists. Yay. But we struggle to live in our feelings. And what I've noticed is like if I get feedback, it could be 100 people said, great job. This was the best thing I've ever experienced. Oh my gosh, yay. And one person said, she's a little much. And I'm like, oh no, I'm a little much.
Yeah. Right to the one.
Remind myself, yeah, I sure am. I sure am a little much. And I need to be okay with that. So thank you for that tip that I should have a folder where I could just go and look at the things that are positive so that I don't dwell on the one comment. I'm not going to please everybody. I'm not everybody's gift. That is indeed true. I am a gift. It's not everybody's gift.
Not everybody's gift, right? Which is a beautiful thing. That's the part about being authentic though, too, right? So remaining true to who you are and showing up as your best self every day. Because again, you won't be everybody's cup of tea, and that's okay.
Right. Well, and Kwesi,
Don't change who you are.
No, I think that's what I'm holding on to from our time together is when that person has their arms folded in the back, instead of focusing on them, I need to continue to focus on me because I can't control them. And I know that I can influence, but I cannot control.
Can't control.
All right. This is going to be the hardest question of the day because although I know we had a direction we were headed and I think we got there, I'm not sure that you will land exactly where we were. So my question to you is, if people could only remember one major thing, right? The theme, the main idea for our time together, what's the one thing you really want people to leave with today?
I think we kind of got there.
Yeah, I do. I think so too. I think so too.
So here's my major thought process of what I want people to think about. And this for me is extremely important because it will shape and kind of determine how you move and function. And I think the biggest thing too is it's not about doing, it's about being. And once we get the being right, then the doing will kind of start to fall into place because you start to do the things that help you be who you want to be, right? So identify who it is you want to be. But in that identification of being who you want to be, always remember it is way more important to be impactful than to try to be impressive. Because when we're trying to impress people, we start to shift shape, right? We start to change. We try to, this group likes this and this group likes this. And so I'm going to try to change over here. Or this person needs this and this person wants this. So I'm going to try to change. But when you think about being impressive versus being impactful versus impressive, it kind of goes to that same notion of, man, if it's just that one person in the room who heard everything I needed to say and actually their life changed as a result of it, then we're good. That's an impact.
Yeah.
And here's what I do know. When we make an impact when we inspire. And when we inspire people, that's when transformation takes place. Because there's a big difference between motivation and inspiration, right? And so we want to make sure we're inspiring to make an impact so that people can transform. Because we want people to become better versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And the best way to get people to do that is to impact through inspiring, right? So they can transform into the best version of themselves.
This was so much fun. Thank you. Thank you, Kwesi, because you could have been doing anything else for the last 30 minutes, but you chose to give back to Productive Joy. You chose to focus your attention on this space, and I'm so grateful for that.
This was amazing. Thank you for having me on today and the opportunity to be able to kind of talk through what it looks like to dare to be genuine, dare to be authentic, dare essentially enough at the end of the day to dare to be you.
Yeah. Okay. And a big shout out to Travis Beverly for hooking us up because he was right. He was very right. He often is. I don't know that I've ever known Travis not to be. So Travis, thank you for this opportunity. And for all of our listeners, thank you for choosing to spend time with Productive Joy today. I hope that you are walking away with something that will help you figure out how to turn fun into action.